So back to the conjugations. Here you have large. The Hebrew word for large is gadol. And you have the four different forms. You have the masculine singular. And then you have the feminine singular. And if you're putting the word gadol with another Hebrew word, it's going to agree. So if the word you're putting it with is masculine singular, you'll get gadol. But if it's feminine singular, you'll get gadolah. And notice the kamatz vowel changes to a shiva. And that's the normal pattern when you have a two-syllable word such as this that has a kamatz in the beginning. When it changes to a three-syllable word with the emphasis on the last syllable, you'll commonly get this pattern where you get the kamatz changed to a shiva, and the last syllable will get the kamatz. So you get gedolah. So gadol becomes gedolah, and in the plural, gedolim, right? That's masculine plural. Remember the eem ending? And you get the feminine plural, which is gedolot. And if you look at this, this ending, we talked about in Elohim. In Elohim, you had the eem ending, and you had the hey, the yod, and the mem. And you had the same hirik vowel under the hey. Right? Remember that from Genesis 1:1. So here you get the lamed with the hirik vowel and the yud and the mem. So that's a very common vowel pattern at the end of a word you'll see as the masculine plural form. So here's some examples for you. Now you may notice when you get into the Hebrew interlinear Bible, sometimes the verse numbers are slightly different. So in the King James, this is Jonah chapter 1 verse 17, but in the Hebrew Bible, it's Jonah chapter 2 verse 1. So in the King James, it's the last verse of chapter 1. In the Hebrew, it's the first verse of chapter 2. And here we see a great fish had been prepared. So we see fish there is dog. I'm highlighting it for you. Make it a little larger. So you got dog, gadol. So fish there is masculine, singular, and so gadol is masculine, singular. So if we take a look at our whiteboard here, right, and if you take fish, dog, right, and you also have daga, so you got masculine, singular fish, and you've got feminine, singular fish. So I've reversed the word order here, but it would be dog, gadol, right? Would be the proper word order as you saw there in Jonah. But see, this gadol is the masculine singular, so it goes with the masculine singular form of fish. But if we were looking at gadolah, which is feminine singular, then we would need to switch to the feminine singular form of gadol, right? So it would be gedolah, right? And you get that common vowel pattern, the same one as you see in Yehovah. You get the shiva, the holem, and the kamatz, right? So that gedolah. I'll give you some other examples here. If you're matching it up, what you're going to see is that the word large is going to change its conjugation to match whatever it's paired up with, right? So gadol, dog gadol, or daga gadolah. So they're going to match. So you get daga and you get gedolah, right? And if you put the emphasis on the last syllable, like we've talked about in these Hebrew words, right? And you're going to get daga gedola. See, it rhymes. So we're going to look at another example here. This time we're going to look at Genesis chapter 12. So we're going in my interlinear Bible here, the one I use anyway. And we go to Genesis chapter 12, verse 17. And you see this word great in verse 17, great plagues. So if you look in the verse, and as your Hebrew gets a little bit better, you'll be able to pick these words out. Here's your gedolim, right? It's plural, masculine ending. And so you get great plagues. So this plural masculine ending, the gedolim, is matching up with the word for plagues, which is nagaim. And there you see it rhymes again. So you get nagaim, gedolim, right? Especially if you're putting the emphasis on the last syllable. So you get negaim, gedolim, right? Negaim, gedolim. You hear that rhyme there. So let me take you back to the whiteboard now. So you're getting this word for plagues. Right? Remember when we talked about syllables? So you're starting to see how these syllables play out with the vowels and the consonant letters in these words as they're conjugated. And remember, we talked about syllables. So you start to see how these vowels and the syllables play out. And you're starting to see this common vowel ending where you get the hirik with the yod and the mem, right? So you get the eem. That's the masculine plural ending, right? And this is the word plagues. So this is the word plagues, plural masculine, right? So you get eem on the end, negaim. And then you get the word large that goes with it. It's a large or a great plague is how it's translated. Large or great is the meaning of the word gadol, right? So gadol, again, it changes its vowel structure as we conjugate gadol into the plural, and you get that extra syllable in the word. But here you get the holam vowel hanging in the air, right, with no vav under it. So you get gedol, and you get a hirik vowel there. So here you get the word gadol as it's conjugated in the masculine plural in order to match the masculine plural of the word it's attached to, right? You get gedolim. You get that holam that's hanging in the air there, and you get that common ending where you get the hirik vowel, the yud, and the mem on the ending, right? So you get gedolim. So you get negaim, gedolim, great plagues. So as you're seeing these different examples, you're beginning to have a context now to put Genesis 1:1, where you see the word for God, Elohim, in the plural, masculine plural, as I said. When we covered that, you see Elohim is following this pattern, right? So if you wanted to get the masculine singular, I'll put it over here on the side. The masculine singular would be El, but the masculine plural, you see here, is Elohim, and you see that familiar ending by now. You see the hey with the hirik vowel, the yod, and the mem, the eem on the end. And here you see the holam with no vav under it. So you see that holam without a vowel carrier. And you see L in the beginning. And this vowel, it's really one vowel. Technically, it's two vowel markings. But what the Shiva does, remember the Shiva is a short vowel. So in the case where you put a Shiva with another vowel, and you'll see this quite often, you might see like in Adonai, you'll see a patak with the shva next to it. And what it does is it cuts the sound in half. It shortens the vowel. See, this is a segol. A normal segol is the sound, right? So you get the segol, and it's a half. It's a short segol. That's what the shiva is doing there. So you get this right? Elohim, right? Elohim. So there's many examples of these patterns in the Hebrews, which is why I'm teaching you this particular pattern. It's a common one. It happens over and over and over again, right? So here's the word tov. So you get the tet, the vav with the holam, and the vet, which is the letter bet, with no dagesh in the middle, right? So it's the V sound. So we call that a vet. Remember, when you have the holam above the vav, it becomes a vowel carrier. So what you're getting is you're getting tov, right? That's the Hebrew word for good, and you may have heard that before. It's a pretty common word. So here you have dagim tovim, and you see how it rhymes. Well, that's because the endings are the same, and you get that vet with the hirik vowel, the yod and the mem, so you get vim, tovim, and you get dagim, right? So what is that? That's masculine plural of fish, and you get the masculine plural of good, right? So if you had some good fishes, so it would actually be fishes, right? Masculine plural. So what you're looking at there is they match, right? So the word good or the word large or whichever word you're putting with fish, it's going to change to match it. So if I change this to dog, then it would be dog tov or daga tova, right? And down here you see tova, which is what? That's the feminine singular of good. And here we have shana, which is the word for year. Shana tova, right? You get that ah ending. It's a feminine ending for feminine singular. So here you see the word tov in the masculine singular form. But if you take it to masculine plural, it becomes tovim. If you take it to feminine singular, it becomes tova. So shana tova, right? We put that emphasis on the last syllable there. Shana tova, right? That's have a good year. That's the greeting at the holiday, Rosh Hashanah. So you say Shana Tova. So one last example here. There's lots of examples, like I said. So you get the word katan, which means small or little. So kind of the opposite of gadol. Gadol is big. Katan is small, right? So katan is your masculine singular. Ketana is your feminine singular. Ketana is your feminine singular. Ketanim is your masculine plural. And ketanot is your feminine plural. So here I've matched it up for you with the word fish, right? You get dog, katan, small fish. Daga, ketana, right? Feminine, singular. Daga, ketana. Dagim, ketanim, right? And you get that im ending like we've been talking about, the masculine plural, right? And you get dagot, And you get dagot, which is feminine plural of fish, dagot, ketanot, right? You get those endings that are the same because they're matching with one another, right? So dagot, ketanot. So you see how it conjugates and it matches, it changes to match what it's associated with. And you also see that pattern again where the kamats on the beginning of the word in the masculine singular, it changes when the word extends and it's conjugated to a shiva, right? And that's one of the rules of vowels that Nehemiah Gordon alluded to in one of his teaching videos that I posted, where you get the kamats changing to the shiva on the beginning of a word when the word becomes longer, right? So when you went from a short word, you get katan, but then it changes to ketana, right? And ketanim and ketanot.